It's crunch time for Occupy, not for the protesters. In our fourth story tonight, for the nation's mayors. We don't have major metropolitan agricultural cities in this country anymore. Ours are predicated on business and finance and the tax base to which they contribute. So mayors from Nashville to L.A. to Oakland have been under increasing corporate pressure to break up protests, and their talk is now getting tougher. Michael Moore joins me in just a moment. First to Nashville, where Occupy leaders say authorities have given them an ultimatum: get out by 8 p.m. tonight or be arrested. The group is now assembling, pledging to stand its ground.
We're all one country together. They can't run us off for that. This is public property. We have freedom of speech. That's part of our Constitution. They can't tell us that.
Across the country, those cities are doing just that. In Atlanta, Mayor Kasim Reed has ordered protesters to be out within 2 weeks. This after police in riot gear arrested 52 people yesterday. Just hours after those protesters were released today, Occupy Atlanta leaders still vowing not to go anywhere. In the West Coast, Los Angeles city officials who had first embraced the Occupy movement are now indicating the protesters have worn out their welcome. Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa saying today that the encampment, quote, cannot continue indefinitely. In response, protesters issued a statement vowing to continue indefinitely. Meanwhile, since protests started in Chicago, more than 300 people have been arrested there for trying to spend the night in Grant Park. And yesterday, a group marched to City Hall carrying a petition with more than 12,000 signatures demanding that Mayor Rahm Emanuel allow them to camp there. His staff accepted the petition, but he has yet to respond. Meantime, New York's Mayor Bloomberg has said he hopes the coming cold weather will do his dirty work for him. And events in Denver could be the first indication of whether or not he might be right. Major snowstorm hit Colorado yesterday. At least 2 protesters went to the hospital with hypothermia. Still, leaders there are vowing to remain and have put out requests for winter supplies. As promised, Michael Moore, author of the new book, Here Comes Trouble. Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you. I just came from downtown, from Occupy Wall Street. It's a bone-chilling rain out there right now.
And you got caught in it.
And yes, but I tell you, the place is still packed with people. And you mentioned about the upcoming winter. There are a couple of representatives that have come from Occupy Anchorage to advise here how to do cold weather camping in the park. And there's now an ice company here in New York that has offered to provide large blocks of ice if they wanted to make igloos there to stay warm in. So I don't think the weather is going to be the problem for Mayor Bloomberg.
Do we know, do they have, or might they rush through the city council, a resolution against igloo construction in Manhattan?
No igloos.
I wouldn't be a bit surprised if they tried it.
Well, you know, I mean, this just shows. Yep. It's interesting. You're going through a list of cities there. Those are all pretty much, if I can do my political thing correctly here, they are all run by Democratic Party mayors. Yep. So this is a problem because you're going to have Democrats breaking up these modern-day Hoovervilles. Yeah. Now, this is what's going to happen throughout the fall and winter. You're going to have these encampments, hundreds of them across the country, like you had in the early 1930s. Those, if people don't know what Hoovervilles are, young people watching or whatever, they can look it up. There's good documentaries on it. But basically, people in the early part of the Depression formed these encampments right on the National Mall. Of course, the famous incident where General MacArthur, on the orders of Herbert Hoover,
the army
burned it down.
The bonus army.
Yes, but
there was one in Central Park. They had several of them in Central
Park. 59th Street. They were all over Manhattan. They were all over the country. And historians feel now, they had the same sort of thing back. Well, what do you want? And other than the bonus army, they wanted their bonus. Right. But everybody else, what do you want? Well, what does it look like we want?
Yeah,
There's a depression.
Homes. We have no homes and no jobs. Yes.
It's like, what a ridiculous question. But they said at the time, you know, well, it wasn't organized, or it wasn't this, there wasn't one leader behind it or whatever. But now what we know is those Hoovervilles helped to really usher in Roosevelt and his ability to pass a New Deal, because there was so much sympathy amongst the public for the people in these encampments.
Well, but to that point, did we just get, do those who support this just get a template of what could happen to particularly liberal and Democratic mayors who take action from the story in Oakland? Because Jean Quan's legal advisor, her #1 legal person in City Hall, after Tuesday night said, this is a terrible mistake, I'm thinking of resigning from working with her again. She got, and not just from me calling on her to resign, but she just got crucified on the West Coast, and particularly in the Bay Area. And she did a 180 on this. She's now done everything but bring the milk and cookies.
Right, and I hope that she does bring the milk and cookies.
Not a bad idea.
And in fact, I'm actually going there tomorrow. I'm going to Oakland, and I'm going to stand there with people there because this is a nonviolent movement. This is a peaceful movement. The only violence that really has been perpetrated here has been by certain police in certain cities. Even the acting police chief there of Oakland doesn't even know who of the 18 different police forces in the Bay Area fired those rubber bullets.
You think that's a coincidence? Think that's why they had 18 different police forces, so nobody knew what the other one was doing?
Well, then that's some very smart thinking on their part. I think, too, just if I can broaden the Democratic Party problem here to a national scale.
Yes, please.
You've got these 9 Republicans running, all right? And, of course, we all laugh, and there's the joke you can make about each one of them, and we know that our fellow Americans, at the end of the day, they're not going to go in the voting booth and vote for crazy. Even though they might be upset at Obama, they're not going to go crazy. So it begs the question then, if this is the party of the rich, the Republicans, if this is the party of wealth in Wall Street, the party that brought about the crash of '08, why aren't the wealthy making sure they have a Republican that's running that's going to win? It doesn't look like they're concerned at all about making sure they've got their man on the Republican ticket, unless they believe they've got their man on the Democratic Party ticket. And if that's the case, okay, well, then we're in for a longer haul than just igloos in the winter here in Manhattan.
But as you say, as the Hoovervilles helped pave the way for Roosevelt to go much further to his own left than he had ever been as a governor in New York or any other office he ever held, there is always that other side. Political pressure is a horrible thing to see, except if it's on your side.
That's right. And Barack Obama has a unique historical opportunity to be the representative of those who are now the majority of this country, the majority who support Occupy Wall Street, the vast majority that want taxes raised on the wealthy, the majority who want an investigation of the '08 crash and people put in jail if necessary. That's the majority of the country. So Barack Obama one thing he needs to hear from this whole Occupy movement is, look, you know, if you really want to take a leap into the deep end here, we've got your back.
Yeah, the deep end is only about 2 feet at the moment.
Yeah, right, yeah. It's not that scary anymore.
All right, well, I want to get into this nonsense about how you're part of the 1% and I'm part of 1%, and therefore we should be ignored when we say anything in the defense of the rights of everybody else, but we have some commercials first.
Right.
How fitting.
Okay.
We'll pick it up with Michael Moore right after
good.
this.